So let's get started. Function notation is a form to write an equation in that already tells us that that equation is a function, that that relation is a function. So if you see it written in this way, you know it's a function. Some of the words associated with function notation, let's start with this side. Dixie is going to stand for domain, input, x values, and independent. Royd is going to stand for the opposite of that. Range, output, y values, and dependent. Independent, of course, and dependent variables depend on your independent variables. So your y values depend on your x values. So they're going to change depending on what x values you input. A key to remember is that a function assigns one output, that's one y value, to every input, that's the x values. So each x value is only going to be assigned one y value. So let's look at function notation. This right here is said as f of x. F of x is basically the y. So if I were to have y equals blank, this is just another way of writing that, but telling me that it's a function. F is the name of the function. And sometimes it uses other letters. So you'll see things such as g of x or L of x. You'll see other letters replacing the f. But as long as you see the letter times the x value, that means it's a function. Then we have x. The number that takes the place right here is going to tell us what to plug in for all of our x values over here. Then on this side, we have the equation, also known as the function. Let's look at an example. So given the function f of x equals 3x plus 4, it wants us to find f of 2 and f of negative 1, meaning we're going to plug in 2 and find out what the y equals. Then we're going to plug in negative 1 and see what it equals. So everywhere I see an x, I'm going to replace it with 2. And from there, I can solve. So 3 times 2 is going to give me 6, plus 4 equals 10. So f of 2 equals 10. So all we're doing is plugging in that x value and seeing what the equation equals. So let's do it one more time. I have the equation f of x equals 3x plus 4. I'm going to replace all of my x's with negative 1. I'm going to get rid of the parentheses by multiplying / distributing. So I'm going to do 3 times negative 1 equals negative 3, and then bring down the rest, so plus 4. Negative 3 plus 4 is going to give me positive 1. So f of negative 1 equals positive 1. The next skill we're going to learn is how to translate that into coordinate points. So basically, this gives you the x, and we already know what the y is. So we're going to write it as a coordinate point, which, as you remember, is x, comma, y. So our x value is 2, and our y value is 10. So our domain is 2, and our range is 10. Let's do the same thing. So our x value is negative 1. Our y value is 1. So our domain is negative 1, and our range is 1. Pause the video and try these examples. Write them as coordinate points, and then when you're ready, press play. Go ahead and pause. So here we have the x value is negative 1 and the y value is 1. Over here we have the x value is 2, the y value is 7. Over here we have the x value is 3, and the y value is 9. Sometimes we're given a graph that looks like this. And it's going to ask us to find f of 2 and f of 4, or something like that. Meaning when x is 2, what is the y value that comes with it? So when x is 2, I scanned and I found x on the x-axis 2, and I go up and it's at about 1. So f of 2 equals 1. And remember, we would write this coordinate point as 2, 1. And if we want to find f of 4, so when x is 4, the y value is -2. So f of 4 equals -2. So remember, whenever we're trying to find or evaluate for a function, all we have to do is look for that coordinate point. So when x is 2, I'm looking to see what is the y value that goes with it. And in that case, it would be 1. When I'm looking for 4, I look on the x-axis, what is the y value that goes with it? And on the equation, that would be -2. So now it wants us to find x when f of x equals -2. So I want to find the x value when my y value is -2. So when y is -2, I see there are actually 2 values. So we have -2 is the x value right here. And at -2, it's also at 4. So I'm just going to write it in brackets, -2, 4. And that's how I would write a series of answers.